Welcome back to Turn Down for What, your source for EV news and updates. Like and subscribe for more content like this episode. Let's dive on in. Welcome back to Turn Down for What. Another day.
Another episode.
There we go. We're back. We took a minor recess over the holidays, and we had people on Twitter or X, I guess, calling us out saying, "Where'd Turn Down for What go?" And Chris traveled. We had the holidays, and it just kind of got sticky. On YouTube, we released some content, a couple reviews, and Chris had a couple contents from his road trip, which we'll talk about today. But to our listeners on Spotify and the traditional podcast avenues, I apologize. But we are back, and we are here and ready to go. It might get a little spotty around Christmas and New Year again, but we will do our best to have a consistent episode drop around that and have some exciting things coming for Turn Down for What in 2025, which will be announced soon. So, anyways, thanks for being a loyal listener to Turn Down for What and taking the time to call us out on X for not posting over the holiday and Chris's travel week. It's been kind of real crazy with work with Jesse and I, and obviously Chris with everything going on there. It was just a couple weeks that we were recessed from traditional podcast episodes. So
we're back. The 49ers are back. Like, it's a good week. Let's go.
I don't know if the 49ers are back, but they are closer to being back. They beat a nobody team, and that was a positive thing. So that is a good thing. So,
and we got Thursday night football. So hopefully we can carry that through against the Rams. But yeah, that's they got to win them all at this point.
Christian McCaffrey was my anchor for last year, and then this year it's like the injury just it's for all the fantasy owners. I'm sorry, but I feel for him because I know he probably wants to get out there, but he got 2 games in and he was done.
Yep, that's all right.
Anyway, so Chris, today we were going to kind of give a little dive in. You took your Lightning and was able to take it on a little road trip. We're going to kind of get a little bit of storyline around that, and then obviously a couple points to bring up in that.
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, the family road trip was awesome. I got to go from the Bay Area here all the way down near San Diego, and then back up to Disney, and then along the coast to a city past Santa Barbara called Solvang, which is a Dutch community that gets all decked out for Christmas and a really special place. So that was just amazing. Went to Legoland, Disneyland, California Adventure. Just a real blast the whole time. And from a content creation, it was kind of a learning exercise in a number of ways. I recently switched over from Android to Apple, and that bit me in the butt. So you kind of referred to the content that we posted with a little bit of my charging experience, and it was limited to kind of the vertical format, the kind of YouTube Shorts format or the TikTok format rather than the landscape format, partially because I discovered the hard way that apparently when, and seems to be from what I'm looking at the forum, with Apple's iPhone 15, which is one generation old, the 16 is out now, when it's connected to Android Auto, it mutes your microphone. So any content that I was creating or recording while in the truck connected to Android Auto, it's video and no audio at all. So
are you saying Apple CarPlay or Android Auto?
Apple CarPlay, because I had Android. It's just horrible timing all the way around. So I had Android Auto forever. I've never been an Apple person. We recently got, my daughter had to get an iPhone for some stuff for her. So it just, made sense. I needed her to be able to get a hold of me on FaceTime. So I finally converted to Apple. I'm hoping to do the same with my computer just for synergy and alignment to make things easy, file transfer stuff. So I switched over to Apple CarPlay, and it was cool because Apple CarPlay is somewhat, we'll get into the navigation in a second, somewhat integrated with the Lightning, where it tells you your state of charge and how it, projects that you will arrive at a certain destination with what state of charge, etc. So that integration is kind of nice to have. But yeah, so I transitioned from Android Auto, which I was very used to, very happy with, but I did transition over to Apple CarPlay. And this was my first road trip on Apple CarPlay. So I had no idea that every time I was hitting record, it was muting. And I dug and dug and dug, and it's Doesn't happen with the 16. It doesn't happen with the one before the 15. Found some setting that you could trick it into that if you record in mono instead of stereo, apparently it then records. But that by the time I figured that out, it was too late. So I got a bunch of content that I'm trying to figure out. Like, should I just voice over some of it? Some of it, I can't remember what the heck I was saying, man. Because you know me, I'll just ramble. I'll just ramble endlessly and have no clue what the heck I'm even talking about or
The
remember
beautiful
what
thing
I
is you can
said.
voice over it and nobody would ever know.
Have
So
you ever met me? Have you ever met me? You don't ramble. No.
Yeah. So so yeah, I've got a bunch of content sitting on my phone that I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. I'm gonna see. I mean, leave a comment what you guys think if you've watched videos with voiceovers and did it suck
we
or
we recorded the Silverado content when we took it on the road trip. And when you're recording content, you're not just always going and spot checking the content, you're just
yep.
recording. And got back and sat down to edit, and the mic just was terrible. It was a new mic that we were using, and everything was warbled. Like it was like maxing out the input, which I don't know why. I mean, I had the mic lower and I thought it would be okay. But then like, we posted what we got. I mean, you can watch it on YouTube. Several comments on the negative mics.
Yeah.
You can only do what you can do, but that's something that you got to do with the best you can with the technology you have, and hopefully we can perfect that on the next set of videos, which will be taken up next week. But yeah, it's just something that you kind of got to deal with technology sometimes.
Yeah, all kudos to those channels that have been doing it and are so dialed in, out of spec and Maki Vlog and Tom Malogny with State of Charge and all these guys that they've kind of got themselves a system and the equipment, and we're still kind of learning as we go. So, those of you in the audience, bear with us and thanks for the support as we go through our growing pains and learn the hard way with some of this
You're
stuff.
getting into some of these other variations of content, which I think are relevant, like EV reviews and things, but you can't sit down in front of a computer and do an EV review. So our traditional mics and everything that we have, you have to get new equipment for. And obviously we did not know how to maintain that for the first set of EV reviews, but it will get better over time.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
thing I will mention on that one is I can't wait. I'm doing my best to see if I can get my butt in the ABB NASCAR Cup car that they built, the electric Cup car. I saw some of the track on it. Um, Still know some people in the motorsports world, so my driver's suit I think still has a Chanel rating where I can get in there and do it. So, or my helmet. So, uh, that things like that oddball content, because I really do think it'd be interesting to talk to some of the people that are looking on the racing side of this as well. I've talked to some drag racing people who have done it for years, but let us know in comments what type of content you would like for 2025. There's a lot of different areas. We had somebody ask about going into more detail of what Power Up America, our company that we have, is, which with our with our charging projects and what states we're in, things like that. So we can probably do a little bit more of a deeper dive into that as we go through next year, and probably show some of the progression and construction and headaches and maybe even decision making. Josh and I made a lot of decisions looking at a lot of people's information. When you go to one of these large events, you hit every charging company there. How do you choose what charging system to use? Since none of them are really on the market here, only in Europe. Do you go with this one that offers X amount, or do you offer, what was it, good point very early on. Josh and I were adamant that we wanted to have NACS and CCS at the pump. We wanted to have every single station have both. And we got a lot of pushback from people who make systems that could do it, but they were adamant, oh, we can't do that. So we kept working till we found companies that did offer that, because to us as EV drivers, that was one of the key components. We didn't want to have a system just for one person. We wanted it for everybody. And secondly, we don't know where the market was going. We might switch all of NACS by the time it's said and done, but we can
yeah.
do a deeper dive into each one of those decisions of location selection, how the states figured that out. We're working now with 12 states that in the Southeast that are our bread and butter when it comes to our locations. And there's a lot of differences between states. There's a lot of things that some states think are critical and they have higher numbers on them, and there's some states that just don't care. They're like, whatever the federal government says is what we're doing, we're done, you do it, and we'll do it on points only, and then we're done with the situation. So we'll, as we go through, we'll go into some of the details and kind of open the veil on our side, since it looks like the majority of those funds will be awarded. Again, not a lot of these sites are built right now. We there's very few of these dollars because of
Yeah.
red tape that's been spent. And I think that's another kind of, thing that gets looked at when I look at what's going on. The money has been spent. It's just, again,
Allocated.
it's
Allocated.
been allocated. The states have
Yeah.
accepted. The problem is just that big red tape. We in
Yep.
Tennessee, for example, there were laws that had to be passed just to accept those funds for this. And you think with all this time, you could have come up with different situations and different, again, it's just big government being big government in that standpoint, and it has slowed down the deployment. But as of today, we have seen a huge upshift on who we're going for in spring. I know of 7 states that are getting ready for their round twos or their round ones in Q1 of this next year. And, Josh and I have been lucky. We just worked on Georgia, and he'll put a link into the comments or into the bio there of where you can go and give public comment on Georgia's NEVI program. And what they've done by district, if you're in Georgia, you can comment and say you like some of the things that these companies have, or you don't like some of the things. Each company provided a multi-page summary of what their state or what their sites are going to be. And they also provided what locations. So you can go on the map that Georgia has and say, okay, Pilot, for example, has applied in this one, and this one, and here's the bubbles they're in. Josh and I rarely apply in areas that Loves or Pilots or companies like that are in because they do a great job. What we can't provide what they do. If they have a great store that's filled, there is nothing we can do, and it's not the best use of the funds for us to come in and try to take that location because you have great bathrooms, you have people there. So places like that we normally don't go after. We're the our company is designed to be the area that is between two big cities that has nothing on those roads. And we've started talking about, do we provide a blue phone for emergency calling? And that's something that is, if it's within our brand, to have a very safe atmosphere. That is one of the key cornerstones of our company, is safe, reliable, and all of that comes into a deal where you have to make those decisions knowing that, well, somebody's going to come in here. Francis Energy is going to partner with this gas station maybe, and that's going to be $300,000 less than what yours is because you have to provide these other things. But does the brand matter from a standpoint of having a covered charger and having it to where I can pull a trailer through? If it's, I think we might have 2 locations out of all of the locations we applied for, which is now coming up on 100 locations. Um, eh, Out of that we have had just a pull up and charge because the property couldn't support the other. One of them
Pull
is,
through is awesome. I
yeah. So
think that,
that, and
yeah.
if it doesn't work for us on that, then we don't go after it. We think that experience for somebody that's in the construction industry is good. We have solar covers because we do want to have it's not a lot of power, but we want to have a good impact on the environment. So there's a lot of things that go into our mindset of providing that service. And, it's going to be interesting to really see what happens next year as we finally start seeing these locations open up. And I think that's going to help the industry as a whole. The only question I have today is, how expensive is it going to be to charge? Around this area, we're thinking 30 to 40 cents is what our charge is going to be, because we may have to pay 22 cents per kilowatt in Tennessee. We don't know in other places. We might have demand charges that we're trying to get out of with battery storage and other options, but we can't apply with battery storage in some of these locations because that's going to put us so expensive we wouldn't win the site. So there's a lot of things that's went into our decisions. And then it is talking to people, when we went out and talking to people that are, put a lot more miles than what we have on their Mustang Mach-E's, and know that areas in California, I mean, Chris, you're a great example. You can tell me what's worked, what doesn't work, what you've seen that you don't like, and what you've seen that I think is like, wow, this is revolutionary for that industry to do that here. And it's been kind of useful to have you go look at that in-ground charging station from Electrify America and say, well, is this the future? Is this what we should be pushing for? Is locations like that? So there's a lot of uniqueness that I hope that we can discuss this year and kind of open up that curtain, say, here's what we're doing, and answer questions for people that are not in our 11 state area. If you're in our 11 state area and you want to do this too, don't yet. Let us get ours done first. But any other area, I'm all right with. So, um, yeah, I think it's going to be a great year this year, and several states in our area is getting ready to drop their RFPs, and I can't wait for that to happen. It's going to be busy though.
Yeah, the Electrify America here in San Francisco is top notch. It's really nice. It's got two different lobbies. It's got a little meeting space, like an enclosed, if you wanted to have a meeting room in there. A couple vending machines. It's got free Wi-Fi. It's got 20 chargers that are working and are all high powered, no low power chargers there. It's attended and secure. It's a really, really nice location. And then another place that I was able to go to during the trip was Rove Charging, and that was really fantastic. I didn't actually need to stop there. As I was doing my trip, I ran into a lot of traffic, holiday traffic, and then a couple weird accidents, like three solo accidents, including a rollover. Just some weird stuff, man. That the way our trucks are, if you're going slow, your efficiency is incredible. So um, I was getting like 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour. It was just ridiculous, and only happens because of the traffic. And so, yeah, I could have made it most of the way from my house to San Diego, including my original 100% charge from home with two additional stops instead of the three that I ended up doing. But the three was purely just for the fun of it. So I stopped at Harris Ranch and we grabbed breakfast. And that just takes so long to go and do. And I guess it's not really a shout out, but scolding Harris Ranch. I'm going to scold Harris Ranch. They are a cattle ranch, right? And so I go and I order the steak as one would want to do at literally a cattle ranch, and their steak was choice. Now I'm going to sound snobbish here, but if I'm at a cattle ranch steakhouse, $60 steaks, I kind of want a prime cut of steak. I'm at the source. Like you can go outside and see the moo cows. You can literally smell what you're eating. And so yeah, it was the burger was great for the kids had. And the pasta was great. Everything else was great. But the steak, like the foundation of what they are, very, very basic. It was choice. It was like that's crazy. So I was kind of bummed on that, which is a big part of why I wanted to go to Harris Ranch. Could have continued on to Kettleman City, but whatever, didn't need to for range. Then I went to Tahoe, which is the Grapevine, the big over the big mountain that's between LA and the Central Valley, and stopped there, and that was cool. And honestly, by the time that I walked over to use the restroom with my kids, and my daughter got a little distracted by a K-pop store. If you don't know K-pop, can count yourself lucky. She is obsessed with it, and so we checked that out briefly. But honestly, by the time we got back, the truck was done, and that could have gotten us all the way down, because again, traffic on the Grapevine could have got us all the way down to where we were going near San Diego for Legoland. But I did stop at Rove Charging just for the fun of it, and they have both. You were talking about ABB; they have ABB chargers there, and those are CCS, and then they had Tesla version 4 cabinet, not cabinets, dispensers with Magic Dock, but Magic Dock wasn't deploying. But I still used my adapter there just fine. But they have a number of charging solutions there, including some level 2. They have seats and benches outside with umbrellas. They have an inside area. They have Wi-Fi. They have an entire little grocery store and a car wash, which when you're on a road trip is nice to be able to pull in and vacuum and wash off all the bugs from I-5 or the 5 if you're in LA. And so, yeah, that was a really cool charging experience. And so to your point, if you're going up against a Rove style or a Pilot Flying J that's already got their all their infrastructure and systems in place, that's probably not where you're going to compete well. But when you've got those areas in between, that's especially with pulse through charging, that's all awesome stuff. Like, I love to hear you guys are looking at that. I love that you guys are going to mix into one charger, NACS and CCS. I hope you're able to do that for all of them. I do think that's the future. you pull into chargers all the time and they weren't future proofed. You know, there are these 50 kilowatt, 150. There's a charge point by a Denny's. It's in a great location, but it only gives you like 68 kilowatts. It's a 75 kilowatt station, gives you 68. It's horrible. It's not future proof. Now you've invested that money into something that's not going to sustain. So, I saw those along the way. And one of the oddities I was telling you, I switched from Apple CarPlay or from Android Auto to Apple CarPlay. The route planning, man, it was just the horrible timing all the way around. It was horrible timing that I had just switched from Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay. When you do route planning, it's a hot mess. It is like fascist route planning. It's like you're gonna do what I want you to do, and if you don't like it, sorry, we're Apple. This is where you're going to stop. I'm like, well, I don't
With
want to stop
Apple,
there.
most of the times with Apple, I am plugging in a destination that I'm getting to, and I know I can get there, but I'm not following the recommendations because I think I griped about this a couple of weeks ago, but like it forces you to charge when the battery can go farther to like the next stop, for instance. I guess it's a cushion that they have built in, but secondarily, it's also trying to get you like I knew I could get home and it wanted me to stop. I'm like, no. And I got home with like 60 miles of range left. I'm like, it was still trying to force me to stop. And like, I passed the exit to try to override it. And it was telling me to stop the exit, turn around and go back. I'm like, no, I'm not stopping there. I'm going home.
Yeah. So, and see, you know the area, so you know better. But I caught it a couple times trying to send me directions where I had to zoom. That's the other thing. It zooms in so much that you can't pinch and zoom it in or out so that you can see what it's trying to do to you. And I caught it a couple different times trying to send me in these off the wall
Most
places.
of the times, if I'm doing a new road trip on a new route, I am planning it out before I leave, and I know my distances.
Yeah, and that's what I ended up doing. So I put it into Apple CarPlay just to have it all there saved. Then I also put it into the native navigation. I've got a little video showing that part, which I'm gonna still probably release. Then a friend of the show, Martin Meek, he mentioned a better route planner, and so I did look at a better route planner. I used one of these little car boxes that you can plug in, and I already had the premium, a better route planner from an earlier experiment I was doing, and that one had some good. It was the only one of the three options at the time, and I'll get into the frustration of the fourth option. That included Tesla charging because Apple doesn't have Tesla charging. The internal nav doesn't have Tesla charging. There is an app within Ford where you can find Tesla charging, but then when you send it to the native nav, it doesn't know that it's a charger, so it doesn't precondition your battery, and it still tries to send you like, hey, you're going to need a charge. It was a hot mess of navigation chaos, but I saved them all there just to have multiple backups and multiple options. And I think I've mentioned this before. It reminded me of flying an airplane where I need to know what's my elevation change, what's my wind going to be, what's my temperature going to be, what's my weight and balance, right? Like, and I need to have options. So what happens if I'm going on my trip and I need to bail out and land in an emergency? Well, in this case, I'm not landing a plane in an emergency, but I did have to plan other charging stops. Like, hey, if I don't quite make it because the wind is crazy or because something else happens. Now I had the opposite where I actually could go way further. And then I just stopped at Rove again because I wanted to see it and I was in the area and I'm not sure when I'll get to again. But it was horrible experience. And a better route planner was the best of the options. It was a little bit complex. But you could tell it. I'm leaving the house with this state of charge. I want to arrive at a charger with 5%. I want to arrive to my destination with 5% because Legoland, to their credit, has free charging. So did Disneyland, by the way. So those were both great to be able to charge up at those. And that was really great how it was able to do that. And it included Tesla charging. But then the problem was along the way at 3 different points, that little box froze up on me. And you start getting to the chaos. You got to reboot the box. You got to reboot the sync system. You got to just so clunky. And then what was really frustrating was that there was this other solution, this Android Auto, which just recently got route planning with Tesla chargers. And A, the 22 model that I have hadn't received the update yet. And B, I had just switched from Android over to Apple. So the timing couldn't have been worse. And then, funny enough, on the last day of my trip, as I'm coming up, the update finally pushes to my truck. Too little, too late. I do have an old Android Pixel 3, super old. But funny enough, when I finally did get home, because I didn't have it with me on the trip, I did link it, and it does work. So even though it's an old Pixel 3 phone, um, the problem with that is because it's an old phone, I have to hotspot Wi-Fi it to my regular phone, and then I have to plug it in physically to the truck. But I did want to see it, and I'll do a video on that as well. At least it has the Tesla route planning, and it does integrate with the truck and tell you what your state of charge will be on arrival. That I could have used 2 weeks ago, guys. Yeah, so that was frustrating because that would have been a much better solution than any of the three that I was stuck with. And that was frustrating. And that is something that, for someone like my wife who's considering being an EV owner herself, she looked at that and was like, why would I do that? Like, why would I want that? And for the average person, that is an obstacle. It's too clunky, too complex. It's crazy that these software things are so slow to update. We have had Tesla access since February. It is now 10 months later. I could have had an entire new child before we have got Tesla planning updated in a software pack. And I feel like I could go to some freshman student at Stanford and they could whip that out for me in like 30 days. So that was a frustrating experience on a navigation standpoint, but like the personal level, that was great. Seeing Rove was great. Obviously, having Tesla charging was great. The free charging at Disney Legoland, great. And then the highlight was that when I was down in that kind of area, a couple folks met up with me and we went and had dinner. And that was fantastic, So, we saw a friend of the show, Talik, the Maki vlog, Patrick and Liv. So we just saw some great people. Eric, who's down in San Diego area, Matt, who owns both the Lightning and a Mach E. So yeah, we all got together and grabbed dinner. I got to see that SoCal community. Talked to Will, but Will wasn't able to make it out because he's down in Long Beach, or up in Long Beach, I guess that would be from where I was. But that SoCal community is so great and so cool, and went out of their way to come and meet up with me for dinner. And so that was also fantastic. I do love that about the EV community in general. That kind of camaraderie and fun was really one of the highlights of the trip. But yeah, this navigation thing, man, I mean, got to figure it out. It is an obstacle. And I think that is one of the things you guys have also experienced. The pricing, you were talking about the pricing. What's the pricing going to be? So Tesla's base charging was 60 cents, 60 cents a kilowatt hour, on all of their stops down I-5. And fortunately, I bought the membership. I was just looking that up as you were talking about it, Jesse. It made me think, what the heck did I pay? So the base was 60, but I ended up paying 45 cents. And then of course, free charging at Legoland and Disney. And then oddly, I did run into my first ever Tesla failure. And I don't know what it is. On my way home, as we were in the Solvang area, I was charging at a stop there, and it completely failed. It was in front of a hotel. It was version 4 version 4 dispensers, not cabinets. So they were new. And I tried 3 different chargers. I tried resetting the truck. I tried multiple adapters, and all of them failed. I literally had the red ring of death, which scared the heck out of me because I'm like, oh, that's not good. There was literally a moment where I'm like, we may have to find a level 2 and stay at a hotel and charge overnight to make it home, because I originally thought I had a physical truck issue. And then then the app was the app was going and saying your vehicle can't charge on the Tesla network, on the Tesla app, which again, I was like, well, I guess I can go EA, but I wasn't really sure. So I had to choose another location, and I had enough range to get there. And then that location worked, which was a huge relief. But that was my first total and complete Tesla fail, and I cannot explain that one. So I posted about that somewhere, I think on X, and that was a weird one. But overall, great trip. I love doing it for the adventure, but you guys know, when you got your family, they don't want to be in on the adventure. That's not fun for them. But for the most part, it worked out. The kids took a couple naps. My wife was very patient, as she always is with my endeavors.
Hey, that $50 check that you make in your YouTube life is worth every bit of the pain and anguish that you've gone through. So
yeah, and look, on the YouTube thing, man, look, the audience and the support. I mean, some of this stuff is really cool. It's really humbling and really amazing. We've we've talked about before. We had a sponsor that helped us with some floor mats for our trucks, and so that was really cool. And I came to appreciate the bed mat that I have because it kind of uh, I've also had some support and sponsorship from Work Sport, who did the AL3 tonneau cover, and they've got some other exciting. They have an AL4 that's coming out after New Year's. They have a solar tonneau cover that we'll get them on the show to talk about in closer to spring or summer. There's some cool stuff, but they sent me a tonneau to test, which was perfect timing for this road trip. To keep all the luggage and gear covered. It was raining the first day that we left the house. It was very overcast and foggy. Throwing all that gear back there with that tonneau cover was fantastic. It was the perfect thing that I needed. And of course, like, saved me money. And we'll get them on the show. They're great. I love made in the USA stuff. Um, that's a big part of, you guys with your chargers looking at, sourcing people that are manufacturing in the US. And that's part of the NEVI program. So I love that about Worksport. Their tonneau covers are made in America, up in New York, not just shipped in and distributed in America, but they actually have a manufacturing plant in New York. They have workers that are American jobs, and it's a great product that I've really fallen in love with. And so yeah, that was a lot of fun to have that there. And then on that, I had an affiliate link, which we'll leave on this one somewhere maybe. And like 8 people have bought tonneau covers from those videos that I've put up there, which,
Hmm.
I made a little bit of money on, nothing crazy. It's not going to change my life, to your point. You get, a little percentage. But that was super cool to just see. You've talked before how someone came and said, "Hey, I bought my EV because of one of the videos I watched." And so to have somebody buy those things, we know with the floor mats, some people bought some of those, and then to have 8 tonneau covers is not an insignificant amount. That was really cool. That was really fantastic to see happen. And so I love that. And that was a whole lot of fun to do. So to see that work out for me, and the efforts kind of save the family some money. That was more money we could spend on the trip. So and we got to do some content video, and some people got a great tonneau cover with some great sales. So those kind of things for these channels, it's awesome. It is cool when you get to learn about these companies and try some products out. And yeah, it doesn't change any of our lives, but it's little cool things that we get to try. I got to try the VinFast VF9 a while ago and try that for a day. I mean, the Act Expo that we're going to do again next year,
My
just
goal,
talking to these
my
people
goal is
are,
not to make a ton of money off the channel. My goal is to have access to go test
yeah,
out the Scout before anybody else, because that's really the goal, is to go get the early access to some of these cool vehicles, and obviously share that with the world. I mean, that's part of
yeah.
the objective package. But no, I mean, it's been really cool just to be a part of the community of EV drivers, and get to kind of have an honest dialogue between the pros and cons. I mean, one of the initiatives between starting this channel was not just to put EVs in this, perfect little bubble of like, oh, look how amazing and perfect. I mean, there's a lot of positives, but trying to be the voice of, hey, like, this is what you need to consider, and this is what you need to understand, and be able to really talk about the topics that matter. And just seeing how that's impacted the EV community. And like I said, we've had people buy vehicles because they're listening to our channel, which is just a cool thing. And then obviously, being able to recommend hardware and stuff that's worked for us. It's cool to kind of help connect those dots in this space and see kind of how that all blossoms.
Yeah. And when I
Shout
was at
out to
Harris,
Ian's dad, down there at Whisper Arrow. So
is that who bought a what
yeah.
would they buy?
Standard range, I believe. I
Yeah.
think he said he got a standard range, but part of the Whisper Arrow family down there, it was one of the people that created the company, and it was his father that was talking to us about it. And it makes you feel good that we don't hide the negatives. You've had problems with your truck,
Yep.
everybody has problems with vehicles. So, but in my case, anything, and I've had very little issues. Ford has always stepped up and went beyond, above and beyond, and
Yeah.
that's why looking at what's on the market out there, I've been considering the Cybertruck now that it's been out a little while, and I've looked at the GMCs, and honestly, I think I'm just going to keep with what I have for a while and see what Ford wants to come out with next. It just I know it might be a while, but it also means that I can put more miles on the one I have and make sure that what we are doing fits with my truck. And if it fits my truck, it fits a lot of people's vehicles at that point. And one other thing I want to mention to everybody is we will be in springtime reviewing the John Deere electric zero-turn lawnmower. They're built in Tennessee. We'll be
Nice.
traveling to the factory and seeing how they're built. Obviously, springtime's when they get a lot of orders for those lawnmowers, and I may end up in one by the time it's said and done, just because it might be that time. So, but that's another trip Josh and I'll be taking up here. If you're around, we'll bring you along too if we can get you out this far. But um, also be looking for that come springtime.
Yeah, I wish I had a yard big enough for that. I use all ego battery lawn equipment, and they have a
Yeah.
zero turn as well. But my yard is so tiny out here in
Chris
California.
lives in California. He could mow with a weed eater.
I
So
could, I could, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's
out
yeah.
here in Tennessee, we got 5 acres to mow. You need that big zero turn when
I'd
you,
love it,
yeah.
dude. I'd throw on the podcast. I'd start listening. I'd just like mow my lawn and have my soda going, and I'd be good to go, man.
That's about how it is. Yeah.
I wouldn't have a soda going,
I
but
know.
I understand your point.
I'll be the designated driver. You guys enjoy the adult beverages. As a Yeah, and to your point, man, Ford, like I say, has been imperfect, and we've shared it, but they've always been great and very supportive, and they are improving all the time. That was one of the other things I ran into in this trip was, well, one, I met somebody at Harris Ranch that had seen us and seen our content, and one of the clips in the stuff that I uploaded was the guy from Tesla who had his Cybertruck right next to me charging and recognized me, and I was like,
Oh,
ah, that's really
wow.
cool. Yeah, that's crazy. And but Tesla, I had, Ford had updated the charging profiles, which you guys probably has run into already with your extended range, getting better charging. But it's the first time I've experienced with my standard range. I got up to 177 kilowatts, which was phenomenal. You guys can go up to 190, I believe. You have the bigger battery pack, higher voltage. But for me, that was the best I've ever had. And so I had 177, and then I had another experience that was 172 or something. Um, and so yeah, that was great to see from Ford that they're constantly improving. It's a slow grind for them, but they do eventually. They do these OTAs, and they do maybe not at the cadence I would love to see, but easy for me to spend Farley's money. Yeah, I've already cost them enough with the warranty claims. Now I'm trying to spend the stuff that's for the cool functions I want. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do in 2027. We have friends that have the Cybertrucks. You guys have experienced the Silverado, and they all have had problems, right? Whether it's a trim piece falling off, whether it's a drive motor problem, whether it's the Silverado's badge falling off the front of it, tonneau cover issues with the Rivian. I mean, they have all had. I've seen Rivians where if they left sit too long, the air suspension kind of drops. I mean, they say these vehicles are, it's the good thing is you got them under warranty. They're working the things out. They're getting better. Every iteration is improved. And so that's just part of the growing pains of being an early adopter, but it's no different than the people that buy a truck and then have a transmission failure in the first 6 months, or have a motor blow or a gasket or a fuel pump, or these things happen when you've got those kind of vehicles out there. So overall, like you said, it's super happy with the Lightning and excited for, hopefully, we've heard them talk about the midsize. I think we can fairly confidently say they're going to have either a Maverick or a Ranger style midsize in 27. And then the question is, are they also going to do full size? What's the battery chemistry going to look like? We know LFP is coming, but solid state is around the corner, and BYD and CATL. These guys are doing incredible stuff in China, man. Every time I look at China, I'm seeing some remarkable stuff.
Yeah.
So exciting times ahead. Again, the China thing is we'll see how that works with the administration and import
China.
tariffs, and can we license this stuff? Can we manufacture in the U.S.? There's exciting times ahead for the electric vehicle stuff, and I think many great episodes and conversations to come for all of us.
Here, here.
Well, awesome. That'll be all for today. I mean, it's got a good bit of content in there. We're running long, but just I mean, obviously there's so much stuff going on. I mean, there's gonna be lots of content to come. So like and subscribe, on whatever platform you're listening or tuning in on, and we will obviously be posting more. Jesse and I have another road trip coming up next week for a business trip, and from what I understand, our partners at Champion Chevrolet will be providing another EV for us to review. I'm hoping that we
Nice.
can get hands on the GMC, so we could take that and get to experience how it compares to Silverado. But we also have, Cadillac Lyrics and some other things that we could potentially take. So we will let you know. But tune in. Those reviews obviously are going to be posted to YouTube specifically, because it's a walk around view, and Spotify, that would be kind of weird. But yeah, if you're listening to this, tune in on YouTube and you'll be able to see those reviews we're posting. And yeah, a lot more content to come. So thank you for tuning in today. Tune in next week for more EV news and updates.
Thanks for tuning in to Turn Down for What. Make sure you're subscribed with your notifications on to tune in to more EV news and updates. See you next time.